A legendary monster may be lurking in the heartland.
I could see a pair of red eyes staring at me.
I felt like my life was actually in danger.
Those who dare walk at night should beware.
Sheer panic just came right over me, and I had to get out of there.
My uncle was never afraid in the woods until then.
Long thought to be imaginary. New evidence now suggests this creature may be all too real.
This didn't look like any type of human being.
Certainly there is a primal fear to this.
Monster Quest searches the woods of America.
You hear something? Something down there moved.
For werewolves.
That was just unnerving.
People around the world report seeing monsters. Are they real or imaginary? Science searches for answers on Monster Quest. The Midwest is known as the heartland of America. These 12 states are filled with small towns, isolated farms, dense woods, and maybe a terrifying myth come to life.
I would say that it was about 7 to 7.5 feet tall.
The head was large, and it didn't look like a bear. It actually looked more like a wolf.
It had to have been well over 3 times my size.
The facial features tend to be more dog-like. The upper body features tend to be more man-like.
Eyewitnesses report seeing a menacing beast with dark hair, walking on its hind legs and standing over 7 feet tall. The creature is said to kill using deadly fangs and razor-sharp claws. It has the strength to subdue animals as large as 1,200 pounds, and it emits blood-curdling howls. Locals refer to the monster as the werewolf.
I'm thinking, what in God's name is that?
It was the middle of the night in late fall on a deserted rural road. Steve Kruger, a contractor for the Department of Natural Resources, was removing a deer from the middle of the road that had been struck by a car.
I was filling out the paperwork, and I felt a small shake going on in the truck. And I assumed it was the wind, so I didn't pay any attention to it the first time.
Then the truck shook with force.
It was a really vigorous and hard shake. That one caught my attention.
Something was reaching into the bed of Kruger's pickup.
So I actually glanced up in the rearview mirror, and I saw something that looked like it was a cross between a bear and a wolf, actually leaning in towards the back end of my truck. And it looked like it was actually reaching for something.
Kruger had never seen anything like it.
Sheer panic just came right over me, and I had to get out of there. I knew I had to throw it in the drive, and I stepped on it.
Kruger hit the gas to escape. He got away, but the beast managed to pull the deer carcass out of the truck.
It wasn't anything I've ever seen before. It had a long muzzle, like a bear, but only longer. It was black fur, really husky, and it had large pointed ears on the top of its head.
Peggy Callahan, a wolf biologist, is intrigued by stories of werewolves. But she's skeptical that what people are seeing is an unknown creature.
Large groups of people can be dead wrong on what they're identifying and what they're seeing, and powers of suggestion are dramatic.
She believes that many eyewitness reports are simply a case of misidentification. Callahan says gray wolves, also called timber wolves, once rare but now making a comeback, are responsible for the sightings.
People could definitely misidentify a wolf jumping up on its hind legs. Maybe they're over-guessing weight. Everybody does that. You get into the woods and your adrenaline takes over. And so maybe a wolf jumps up on its hind legs, you see a 200-pound animal.
Callahan believes that folklore and misidentification are breeding modern-day superstitions.
As someone who has been fascinated by wolves since I was a child, I gobbled up werewolf stories as much as anybody else. When you start to describe an animal that walks on its hind legs for extended periods of time, not just brief steps, not just jumping up, 5 to 7 feet tall, smells awful, and uses its front paws almost like a human, I run into a wall for explanation. It physically isn't a possibility for a wolf and a human to blend together. The traditional werewolf, I'm going to tell you, it doesn't exist.
The Manistee Forest in Michigan has become the epicenter for reports of werewolves. More than 100 encounters have been reported here in the last decade. The most compelling was one captured on grainy 8mm film that, if authentic, defies explanation. Monster Quest will start its search for the legendary creature in this 800-acre national park, 220 miles from Detroit. The team has set up its base camp close to the location where the film evidence was shot.
This is what's called Baldwin Luther Swamp. It's about 3 miles long, 2 miles wide, very desolate area.
Mark Peterson, a professional tracker, will lead the expedition into the forest.
And then I've made waypoint things where I think there's good natural travel corridors for animals.
Peterson will be joined by John Warren, a member of the Potawatomi tribe with an extensive knowledge of local werewolf legends.
And is it a werewolf? I don't know, but I had the sense of this entity even before coming here.
Raven Mindell, a local cryptozoologist who has tracked the sightings, will help navigate.
I do think as a team of researchers we have a great chance of finding something here.
They begin their search by looking for physical evidence that the monster is hunted in the area.
What I would hope to find would be at least large numbers of wolves in this area. So what we'll do is we'll look for their prey base, in other words, food source, water source, travel corridors, things like that. It's rugged country back here. It's really rugged. We can't stay on the outskirts. We got to get in the back country. So hopefully we can get through everything.
The team will start in the location where sightings have been reported. They decide to set a series of camera traps around the area so they can monitor the nighttime traffic of predators. The area's notoriously poor weather has already been a problem.
When I first got here to scout and set cams out, the weather was just atrocious. It was solid rain, stormy, which really hinders animal movements. And then there's one trail I had to get back to. Upon looking at the maps, we needed to get back to this one location.
But as the team pushes into the woods, their truck becomes stuck.
We're going to have to get pulled out of this one. That's a little deeper than I expected.
The team gets assistance from some hunters who reveal that they have seen the corpse of a giant wolf in the area.
When I built my log cabin up the road here, before we got the doors on, we came up and there was a wolf laying in the cabin. And me and my buddy back here had a 5.5 inch track.
5.5 inch track. That's a big wolf. Okay, well, thanks a lot for your help. I really appreciate it.
No
I'll
problem.
have to get going again.
The story seems to reinforce the belief that the witnesses may be misidentifying a real wolf, perhaps one of unusual size. Peterson decides to set up the remaining camera traps close by.
I've got one more cam that I want to get up while you guys are finishing up camp.
Three night vision motion-triggered cameras are baited with a center tractor and placed along animal trails.
This is wolf urine in heat, okay? And then what I'm going to do, in hopes of finding a wolf, I take it out and I put a couple of drops right in front of the camera.
Now, will they call to others when they smell this?
No, they would just come to investigate what other wolf is in their area.
Okay.
And especially a female in heat will attract just about any of them. We're going to go out tonight And we're going to do a lot of wolf calls. And we're going to be out in the dead of night trying to get some sort of response. How do you feel about that?
I think they already know we're here.
Yeah.
It's a real eerie feeling when you're out there. Because, we're not scared of the dark, but humans by nature are.
It's
Typically,
a primal fear.
It is. You are scared of the dark, even if you don't think you are.
See, I still think that we're dealing with something that kind of knows what our intentions are. What are your expectations?
Well, I'm wondering if they're interdimensional, spiritual. I mean, there's definitely an eerie feeling that's attached to these werewolves. There's definitely something that's above and beyond the normal primal fear.
I think if there's a werewolf, it's a shapeshifter, but maybe a little bit different of a shapeshifter than what I'm used to.
I'm curious, what is a shapeshifter supposed to be?
Basically, they come in forms of owls, bears. They can use cats. I feel like even talking about them brings them on.
Monster Quest is searching the Midwest for evidence that the strange sightings reported here might be proof of a mythical beast. Tales of werewolves or lycanthropes date back to ancient Greece. The word lycanthrope originates from a cruel king called Lycon, who tested the wrath of the god Zeus by slaughtering children. Zeus, enraged by this behavior, turned Lycon into a wolf. By the Middle Ages, belief in werewolves had spread throughout Europe. Some believed that a bite from a wolf could make a man change into a bloodthirsty monster whenever the full moon rose. The unearthly howls could be heard for miles as the beasts hunted their human victims.
The wolf was something that was still very prevalent in Europe and inspired a lot of fear. People were afraid of wolves. You have all the fairy tales that still come down to us these days. Werewolfism was very rampant in those days.
In France, fear of the creatures led to deviant killers being seen as beasts that could change from man to wolf. Thousands were convicted of being werewolves, and many were burned at the stake after being tried for vicious crimes.
Suddenly, small children and babies began to disappear from their cradles. They were never seen or heard from again.
Jean Grenier was a teenager when he was arrested. Suspected as a werewolf, he was blamed for the disappearance of more than a dozen children.
People were being terrorized by their children being kidnapped and found later partially eaten. They thought that some kind of wild animal was raiding their cottages.
Then the survivor of an abduction came forward with an accusation.
A young girl reported that she had been attacked by a 13-year-old boy who acted like a werewolf.
Grenier was described as gaunt, with a strange, pointed face. He was known to wear the skin of a wolf across his back.
He was apprehended and later confessed to the townspeople that indeed he had been killing and eating their young children.
The courts found this self-confessed werewolf to be the victim of demonic possession.
Rather than being sentenced to death, he was shut up in a friary.
After his imprisonment, the abduction stopped. Jean Grenier died soon after, still believing he was a werewolf. French pioneers later settled parts of the Midwest and brought with them stories of werewolves. They soon found that tales of the creatures existed in the folklore of native tribes.
We would interpret them as being more like a shapeshifter, a person or an entity that can change into different forms. Shapeshifting at one time had a practical use. It was for our war bundles, to terrorize and put fear into our enemies, and to also protect our area. A lot of Native Americans are kind of taboo a little bit to talk about the shapeshifters. We don't used to say shapeshifters, we used to say Mendoza, and usually the more you talk about them to you,
There have been sightings in this region ever since.
So many people are all reporting largely the same creature that they're seeing. And oftentimes, there's more than one person seeing the creature at the same time, which rules out hallucination. They're seeing more than one creature at the same time, which makes you think perhaps there's some kind of a population of them.
A cool summer morning in early June is when the legend began. At a nameless logging camp in Wexford County where the Manistee River ran.
In 1987, Werewolf Stories inspired Steve Cook, a Michigan DJ, to write a song called The Dog Man.
Then the thing let out an unearthly scream and came out and stood upright.
After the song came out, it started to generate so much interest in, is this thing real? Is this a real legend? And I started getting lots of reports from people. They would come in waves from people saying that this creature is real, and we know it's real because we have evidence of it. And I started receiving photographs, drawings of what people had seen, witness accounts, and things like that.
2006, Cook received a reel of 8mm film.
A lady had bought it at an estate sale. It was, she didn't buy the film, she bought a box of junk at an estate sale, and the film just happened to be in it. There was a little paper tag that said Gable Case, and it had a number on it.
The DJ dubbed it the Gable Film. Just over 3 minutes long, it appears it was filmed over several days.
The contents of the film lead you to believe that it was something that was shot probably in the late 1970s, just based on the style of the hair that people have, the vehicles that are involved, and then it turns into something else.
The final frames of the film may be proof of what has long been considered just a legend.
Then it comes upon this thing that is standing in the woods, appears to be standing on all fours on a ridge, and suddenly this thing takes off and comes at the cameraman in what appears to be an aggressive charge, and it's really chilling.
Monster Quest has acquired a copy of the film, and image specialist Peter Schmitz will analyze it for the first time to determine if it is real.
You can see lint and other debris on the, which is pretty common from my experience in old 8mm film. From what I reviewed in the video that was given to me, it definitely looks like early to mid 70s, based on vehicles, including the snow machines.
Schmitz then analyzes the creature itself.
As the creature actually jumped from one direction to another and then changed direction again. This didn't look like any type of human being in a suit. It was just too natural, too fluid. The leg pattern, the front legs and the back legs just moved too well together. If indeed it was a human in a suit, they did a great job.
Many of the Midwest eyewitness accounts center on strange, howling cries.
They told us not to go looking for the source of the howlings.
It was a full moon when this couple heard a terrifying sound outside their farmhouse.
It's almost like a combination between a wolf and a scream at the same time.
Soon, a stomach-turning odor overtook the couple.
It smells like sort of a dead animal with maybe blood.
Davis opened the front door to investigate.
And just before I went outside, I looked through the window and I could see a pair of red eyes staring at me from the corn. I just locked eyes with it, and it was like I lost all will to go outside.
What he saw was a massive wolf-like creature standing on its hind legs.
I would say that it was about 7 to 7.5 feet tall, because the corn at that time was a little over 9 foot.
The creature disappeared into the cornfield, but the couple could still hear it.
I could hear at least two things going off through the corn, kind of snapping and snarling at each other, sort of the way dogs do. But you could tell that from the pitch and the volume that it wasn't anything like regular dogs or coyotes or anything.
The expedition team is call blasting wolf cries into the darkness surrounding their camp.
So, boy, did I just get shivered.
Yeah.
You hear something?
I heard something down there along the, something like something walking down the bottom of that hill here.
They have set up camp in an area where multiple sightings have been reported.
I know we're waiting for a response, but something down there moved.
Any movement's good movement.
Is it?
Absolutely. That didn't sound like a coyote.
No, that was not a coyote.
That sounded like a wolf.
That sounded like a wolf to me.
Yeah.
Keep that thing.
Is it?
Holy moly.
Shh. Oh, he's getting closer. Whatever it is, he's getting closer. He's getting a lot closer now.
Monster Quest has traveled to the Midwest, where witnesses say werewolf-like creatures are lurking in the shadows.
And my uncle was never afraid in the woods until then.
Dave Chmielewski, an avid outdoorsman, was bow hunting in a remote wooded area near the Manistee National Forest. His niece tells the story of his encounter.
As he was getting close to finishing his hunting, it was getting dark, dusk. He heard noises like something was following him.
Something was moving in the brush, but it moved only when he moved, and it sounded large.
There was something out there that was very big, and it was following him, and all he had was a bow and arrow.
Chmielewski took off as fast as he could for his car.
And the next day, he was very curious about what might have been following him.
Chmielewski returned to the site and found enormous three-clawed footprints. He made casts of the prints and took them to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources.
They could not definitively say what it was that was following him. He always wondered for years.
Boy, did I just get shivered.
Yeah.
The expedition team's call blasting has provoked responses they cannot identify.
You hear something?
I heard something down there along the, something like something walking down the bottom of that hill here.
The strange wolf-like cries die down, and the team moves deeper into the forest. Something responds.
Oh, he's getting closer. Whatever it is, it's getting closer.
Real close.
It's starting way off. Yeah, he's getting a lot closer now. You hear him howling?
Oh, yeah. They're howling. They're not chirping. They're howling. What is that?
Coyotes and wolves are natural enemies. They have been known to fight and kill each other. The call blasts have triggered an aggressive response. Something seems to be lurking in the woods.
Is it? They're close, too. They're real close. That's cool. They get further away. Is that an alpaca answering?
That was good. bunch of them. Yeah, that was 25 or 30 times for
No,
sure.
they're running away from here, aren't they?
No.
They're getting further away.
They heard us. They're coming right this way. As soon as they heard us talking, they could be sneaking up to see what we are.
Yeah. Okay.
They have to find out what we are before they do it.
Oh.
The science team has been studying the Gable film. Wolf expert Peggy Callahan believes the creature on the film is not from the canine family.
Very primate stance. This is not bear, this is not wolf. This has a primate build. It really, for all intents and purposes, looks like a gorilla. I mean, it's got the massive sort of shoulder build, head position. There's nothing canine to this at all. There's nothing that looks like a natural North American mammal in this at all. Nothing.
Image expert Peter Schmitz's analysis has found something strange about the footage.
Possibly the cameraman is actually making a run for it. And in a second here you'll see what appears to be teeth chomping down on the lens of the camera. There doesn't appear to be any video from leading into this. You don't see half of the teeth coming into view. It's there. Next frame, it's right on us. We get another frame. It looks like it's a little further into the animal's mouth. We got a black frame. Could this be something that was cut and spliced into this digital recording? That's a possibility. What I would really like to find out is where this film came from. Is the film still in existence? There is what appears to be a young man recording. You can see his reflection in the rear view mirror. This is video shortly before the creature was actually imaged on. There's also a longer haired gentleman who's chopping wood. So there's several individuals that appear in this video. Where are they? Who are they? And what do we need to do to find out more about them? And what is the motive? And if the attack did take place, my question is where's the other person that was in the vehicle? There's more study that needs to be done on this. I'd want to see the actual film.
Monster Quest is exploring the forests of Michigan, investigating reports of werewolves.
I kept thinking in my mind, what could do so much damage that a homeowner would call up and say, hey, something tried to get into my house.
Sheriff's Deputy Jeff Chamberlain was sent to a remote cabin to investigate a report of vandalism.
Well, I get up here and the bottom of the screen door has been completely ripped off with claw marks and chew marks, puncture from what appears to be teeth.
Deep scratches were found on the cabin's wooden siding, seemingly made by an incredibly large animal.
For the height of the slobber marks and blood marks of what had to have came from its mouth, the mouth had to have been well over my head. When I originally got here, the slobber marks and everything weren't dry. They were still fairly wet.
Chamberlain filed a report with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, who found canine footprints at the site.
Whatever it was that did it had to have been somewhere so close to the area.
The expedition team is in Luther, Michigan, looking for strange claw marks and oversized canine prints.
The big Luther swamp that I was telling you about is right back here. We're going to go back here to a little clearing that I wanted to check out. It's just a little high spot I saw on the topo map. We need to set up a number of cameras. So let's go look around and see what we can find back in this spot right here for starters.
Okay, cool. So Mark, since we're looking for an
So let's go look around and see what we can find back in this spot right here for starters.
Okay, cool.
So Mark, since we're looking for an upright canine, how do you think it would hunt different from a normal quadruped?
You've got two types of hunting basically, ambush or chasing it down. Wolves, for example, do both. They're good ambush hunters. At the same time, they have the capability with endurance and stamina, and because they're in a pack, they can also chase down their prey as well. Just be very aware of your surroundings. Look for tracks, look for strange things like horizontal branches, horizontal trees. Whenever you come by puddles, it's a great, because of the wetness, obviously there's wet everywhere, but always look, because that's a great place to find tracks. You guys, hang on a second here. Remember on the way in here, I had to hold this limb up for you too?
Right,
Remember that?
right.
It's gone now. So something has come through here and knocked it out of here. It's laying right here. The stick, and this is what I lifted up.
Yep, that's it.
We've only been back here for about an hour.
John Warren, a member of the Potawatomi tribe, tells the team they are on sacred ground and must proceed with respect.
I'm here today because I know I'm invading your home, so I bring you this little offering today, just a little meager and humble shell wrapped up in some wool as an offering as we invade your home. We don't mean you no harm. We just want to be welcome guests here. If there's anything you want to reveal to us or show us, that's good. We want to do this in a good way. And we're here to share with you some of ourselves, as long as you're willing to share yourself too. If not, that's good too, I hope.
There's a little trail coming off here. This is just a small ridge line. So the deer pop out on the road here, follow the road for about 50 yards that way, and then they're going to follow that ridge line again. So what's really interesting is, even though that they can zing around anywhere they want, they're going to use the path of least resistance. They're going to stay on these ridge lines. Yeah.
The terrain shows evidence of animal traffic. There are deer tracks visible, a sign of a possible food source for large predators.
That's a buck right there. Okay? Now this is going to be a very high traveled traffic area for whitetails.
Hence, this would be a great food source for a large creature.
For any predator at all, this would be a great food source.
And the team finds evidence of predators in the area.
I'm going to say right off the bat, that's wolf scat.
Well, let me ask you this. Could this belong to something roughly 250 pounds?
I'm going to say that by the size of this right here, this is only about half the size of some of the wolf packs I've seen, the wolf scat that I've seen in northern Minnesota and other areas. So I don't think this is a monster wolf, so to speak, a really large wolf, but it's definitely wolf.
Monster Quest learns of another film said to depict the aftermath of the original Gable film encounter. The science team has questions about both films. Steve Cook, the owner of the first film, claims to have no knowledge of a second film.
I thought that the timing of the release was rather suspicious. There were just too many things that didn't add up about it. Steve, we've had an expert film analyst look at the Gable films, and he sees a lot of red flags.
We don't take any position on any of the evidence that's presented here. I'm going to just give this to you. I'm going to act as the reporter. Here's what I've seen. You look at it and you decide for yourself.
Well, it's a very big controversy, in the field, and many people do believe that it's genuine.
I put it out there mainly because it was interesting. It was just an interesting piece of film.
Let's just start at the beginning. How did you acquire this piece of film?
Well, the backstory on the films is that they were purchased at an estate sale by an elderly...
You said backstory. Does that mean this isn't true?
The film isn't what it appears to be.
Video that may be evidence of a werewolf.
The traffic on my website immediately skyrocketed into thousands of hits every day. And within a week, it was on dozens of websites. It had been taken, people had copied it off YouTube, and it was on websites all over. It just ran away. I decided that it was probably between what had happened on the internet and what will happen as a result of this show, it was time to say this has gone far enough.
Steve Cook who claimed the Gable film on his website was found at an estate sale, has changed his story. He now says it came to him from a local machinist named Mike Agrusa.
Steve Cook's song generated a lot of mass hysteria in 1987. It made the summer of '87 fun. It made people scared to go out in the woods, so I took it upon myself in 2007 to elaborate upon the story to try to bring back the mass hysteria that it had in 1987.
Agrusa reveals to Monster Quest that he used a vintage 8mm film camera and studied home movies of the period to create the hoax, using vehicles from his personal collection.
I felt that this film really needed to look like it was made in the 70s, so I've already got all these antique toys sitting around, and my old snowmobiles that I have been collecting for years were also age appropriate.
And how were these used in that film?
Oh, my children were driving them around while Dad filmed them driving the snowmobiles, and it looked very amateur home movie-ish.
Agrusa says his family helped him stage everything in the film.
Home videos and home films are typically only interesting to the family involved, and I wanted that look to come across in the film. And so this was just a dad shooting his kids, shooting the family stuff, until something a little more unexpected happens, and they ran into a creature in the woods, and they followed it around, and unfortunately it attacked the cameraman.
Agrusa wore the costume himself.
I had actually found a suit online, just off the rack. It's called a ghillie suit, and I thought it looked more realistic as a creature. I was trying to be a werewolf. When I got the film back for the first time, I freaked when it looked so real. The charging of the cameraman, it looked so much like an animal. I was very pleased with the way it turned out.
Agrusa then took the footage to Cook.
I kind of blindsided Steve Cook. He had no idea that I was making this film. He didn't know that I existed until I contacted him after trying to promote it myself. He was surprised. I'm not sure he knew what to make of me, but when Steve finally realized that I had no malicious intent, I showed him the film, and he was rather pleased with it.
The hoax continued with a second film.
I thought it'd be a good idea to make a sequel, and so I filmed Gable 2 in the spring of 2008, and that was just a police investigation of the attack scene from the first Gable film. An amateur filmmaker just happened to lend his services to the police and get some film footage of the scene. I felt it was important to see what happened several hours later. This is the body.
Agrusa demonstrates how he created the mutilated body seen in the footage.
A lot of people have speculated that those were actually animal entrails hanging out of a dead body, but that seemed a little too gory for me.
The entrails were actually made using spray foam insulation.
So I just stuffed the foam rubber body with rags and painted it, and it looks pretty gross. A lot of people have speculated that the body on the ground was simply a mannequin. And some people have actually gotten it right, that it was a guy in a hole in the ground with an apparatus on his back. And that was right on the nose. I just dug a hole, climbed into the hole, and had my actors assemble the body behind me. And the shirt was actually hiding the transition from the real body to the fake foam rubber body.
Agrusa still believes there may be some truth in the legends that inspired him.
I like to keep an open mind. I'd like other people to keep an open mind. These things could be there. Just due to the fact that I made a fictional film doesn't necessarily prove that these things don't exist.
The science team has analyzed the strange casts that were made by an eyewitness who was stalked by a large animal in the Manistee forest.
This footprint that this hunter found, it's in terrific shape. The first thing I'm going to tell you is it is a member of the dog family. There's nothing else that has this distribution with the toenails and the heel pad. This is clearly a member of the dog family. And it could be a very large dog. And it could be a wolf. I'm going to compare that to a track that we took from a known origin western wolf. So you can see some of the differences. This is a longer track. It's in very deep mud. It's in deep substrate. In order for him to get the entire toe pad and everything, when you step in mud, your footprint is exaggerated, no matter what you are.
They determine that the print is from a wolf, though they can't identify the species.
Wolves follow people. We know that. They're very curious. They do it all the time. And based on the behavior, the description of the behavior, that sounds very wolfy.
But it's uncertain if the hunter was ever in any real danger.
If I were to assess the risk that this hunter was in, based on statistics, I would say, no, he's not at risk. They can kill an elk on their own. So if they wanted to catch us and kill us, they could. I think we need to be very careful about not assigning motive to the behavior of these critters.
The expedition team reviews the footage from the motion-activated cameras.
We've had really good success on this expedition around the swamp area. We've got bear, coyote, a number of deer. We've had really good activity out in the woods, which is amazing because the first 3 days of this expedition were rainy and stormy and the animal movement were down to nothing.
I thought I was connected to the earth. You know, I thought, being a Native American, I thought I was really connected. And I found out from this expedition that, you know, I'm not as connected as I thought. There's things out there that I don't think my little mind can ever explain or comprehend.
Certainly there is a primal fear to this, definitely. This is eerie.
We all had little things that we brought to the table, and we put them all together. And quite frankly, I mean, I think we did very well. We found a lot of wildlife, a lot of food and prey source, scat. We found a lot of stuff, proving at least that there are wolves in the area.
This investigation has uncovered some interesting facts about the legendary werewolf of the Midwest. The science team investigated the controversial Gable films and found them to be a hoax. The large footprint found in the area was determined to most likely be that of a wolf.
Yep, that's wolf scat right there.
And the expedition team proved there are wolf and coyote populations in an area where witnesses have had encounters.
It's something big.
Who's to say that there isn't something that's out here that we haven't seen because it doesn't want to be seen?
Humans are nothing without our imaginations, and we need something to feed that from time to time.
If there is a werewolf, I would say, from my point of view as a Native person, just leave it alone. If this creature does exist, I say